Do we have to talk about Alex?
What a great way to start the program. Do we have to talk about Alex? No.
No,
But
he's just
still here
now. Bye.
His ego.
I'm just here to watch. I'm just here to watch the show.
His ego is big enough. Come on.
Yeah, I'll just put him backstage.
So
You're the one who brought him
we're
back.
live now, Chris. I feel like that was the first thing that people heard was just.
You're the one who brought him back.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to Live Reality Games, the page, the show, the experience, the ride, the game. I'm Naomi Calhoun, here today to host the Survivor New York Season 4, Episode 4 recap and interview podcast, because we have an amazing group of people with me today. We have Chris Lord, the founder and host of Survivor New York. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm tanned. I'm at the beach in New Jersey this week, so I am totally relaxing, but I'm so excited to get to talk to you guys tonight.
You're getting your pre-game tan. We have our season 5 coming up in August, so you're already preparing. I understand it.
Exactly.
And with us we have is that Cochran? Oh no, it's just Alex Forstenhauser. Alex, how are you?
Good. I took a break from the bush that I live in on Exile Island to come here and be with you guys tonight. So excited to talk about the episode.
It's like you're kind of like a mermaid almost. You just like come from the sea onto the land. You don't know how to walk. But
yeah, I was waiting inside that bush for a while before I walked in.
Good timing. And we have with us, unfortunately, the most recently eliminated player from Survivor New York. We have Miss Liska Savage herself. Liska, how are you?
I mean, it's been almost 2 years, so I feel like I'm finally over this.
Thank God.
Thank you. I just had my hair done yesterday, so perfect.
Yeah,
Kyle, I'm not near Bradley Beach, so I'm at LBI, so I can't visit you.
LBI, I love LBI.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where in LBI?
Hang on, this is not a beach podcast.
Ship's Bottom, I think.
Ship's Bottom. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, hello everybody who's joining us. Liska, not only were you a participant on season 4, you were the winner of our Survivor New York Sequester. I would like to point out.
That's right, and that's what this podcast is now about.
Yes.
We'll only be discussing last year's Sequester mini and no longer talking about season 4.
That's fair enough. That's fair.
Whether she's Liska or Liska, we have a lot to talk about today, and I cannot wait to get into it.
Can we just start with like how Liska got on the show? I can vividly remember Alex going to some sort of bar or some event that Liska was at, and Alex had said to me, "Oh, there's this girl. She watches Survivor, and she watches Survivor New York. She knows who I am." And she's also a relative of Andrew Savage, and like there's just all these checkpoints. And I think she was like the very first person that I knew that would be in the cast.
Yeah.
Because of what Alex had said to me, and like I remember seeing a picture of like you guys like outside of a bar, like all like hugging each other. I think Matt was there from season 2, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just like, okay, that's cool. She's a fan of the show, and she's a relative of somebody on Survivor. Like that's a great person right there.
Yeah, Liska was tagging us on Instagram, being like, I'm watching Survivor New York. And I was like, who is just casually watching Survivor New York? I love her. She's my favorite person.
Well, I mean, hopefully a lot of people are.
That's right.
Yeah.
So actually what happened was I was at the RHAP, the Know-It-Alls in Philly, and that's when I had met Jordan a couple of times before at just other like podcast events, and that's when I really met like Alex and Amy and Matt. And I actually wasn't watching Survivor New York at the time, but it was airing their season. And so then after meeting them, and a bunch of people who were there who were watching it, so people are watching, were coming up to them being like, oh my gosh, let's talk about this. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. So then I went home and started watching the episodes, because now I had met these people who had done it. And I really didn't know anything about like LRGs or ORGs or any of that type of thing ahead of this time, but Alex kept telling me that I should do this, and I really didn't know if I wanted to. Like it kind of looked fun, but it looked really stressful. I wasn't sure. And then I remember him sending me a text being like, okay, it's like, this is it. It's You have to send in an application now. And I was actually in San Jose, not San Jose, we were in Napa Valley at my cousin's wedding. And it was like the rehearsal dinner or something like that. And I was drinking all this wine, and I like made my little video kind of drunk and sent it in. Like, well,
best way to do it.
We'll see how it goes.
That's hilarious. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, that's so funny. I love it. And I at first for a second I was like, wait, there was a party and I wasn't there. It sounds like my friends forgot to include me, but it was know-it-alls, and I actively didn't go to Philly know-it-alls. But yes, I loved that we got you even involved. I think Liska, we were from the get-go very, very much on the Liska train, and we're like, we gotta have her. We need to have her here. And I think the big question for us was always like, is she going to tell anybody that she's related to Andrew Savage? And I was always kind of like, no, she won't tell anybody. But it would be great if she did on camera, but she won't. She's smarter than that.
Like I think I said in one of my confessionals that I would never have lied about it if somebody was like, oh, hey, blah, 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 are you related to Andrew Savage? Because that would be so stupid to lie. I don't think that is anything that should make somebody a threat, but I soon discovered when you're doing something this fast paced, any little thing can turn somebody into like a target or a threat, especially with those night zero conversations. There were a couple things, like one of the reasons people were going after Bennett was based on a few things that he had said on that night zero that people like pinged into and like, oh, this guy might be a threat because of this. And I was like, nobody even brought it up to me. So I thought nobody had put it together. And then later, way after this season and stuff, I think it was Davey who told me that he had tracked who was on the cast via like Venmo and was researching us and looking us up, and that's like, and that he knew.
You got to keep it private. You got to keep all Venmo private.
It's so funny because like that's like the mistake we made in the past, and I know that like Emily Paddock knew Alejandro was part of the cast because of the Venmo thing, but for season 5, like we made sure that every single dollar was locked because that's just crazy. You guys are so sneaky.
I feel like I really went into this with like, in some ways, some very naive like expectations of like what I was doing with some of the stuff. Like when I found out all of these things were happening that people were doing to prep and stuff, I was like, are you guys like, are you serious? Like, what?
Liska,
showed up. Like,
do you remember Jordan doing confessionals with you and saying stuff like, what would Andrew Savage do in this moment? Who would Andrew Savage align with? Because this is not, that was never put in the episodes, but I thought it was really funny.
Like every confessional that I did with Jordan, he would end with like, well, who would Andrew Savage say is like a miserable little pissant? Who would Andrew Savage want to align with right now? And I was like, I don't know what I want to say because this is on camera. So like,
I know. Oh my God. Well, I love George saying she's not the Frankie Grande of Survivor New York. That's right. You don't need the fame of your relatives to get you to the end. Who needs it?
I mean, maybe I should have said it if it would have gotten me to the end. I
don't know. Kristen, don't worry. You just missed us shitting on Alex, as always. It's all
good.
Wait
a second. Go back and listen. And I didn't. That was not my interpretation of the events.
Alex, speaking of which, so Alex, I think that we always knew that you were going to be the Exile Island person. I didn't think we thought it would go as well as it did, but from your perspective, what did you think about being on Exile Island? Like getting to go and getting to be the advice giver. Were you nervous?
I was very excited. I guess the only thing I was nervous about was who was the person that I was going to be with, because that we didn't know. I love giving advice, but I'm never, you don't know if the person that you're going to be talking to, cares about the advice or
are they going to be a Debbie or
willing,
not? Yeah,
is willing to listen. So that's what I was nervous about. But when I saw that Emily was picked, I was very excited. She seemed like the perfect person. She's so fun, and we had a great conversation. I enjoyed it. What you see on camera, I feel like it was only filmed for like a small portion, but we continued to like talk strategy for that entire round. It was a long time and a lot of strategy. And it's like my favorite thing to do is to talk about strategy and Survivor strategy. And so it was a dream for me.
Yeah. Chris, talk to me more about putting Alex on Exile Island and sticking him in that sort of bush and being like, all right, come out when we tell you to.
Well, a fun thing about Alex is besides like my own friends and family, he's the only person that has ever been to like every single season of Survivor New York. So when I knew he was coming, I was like, you know what, maybe we should include Alex in this season and let's do something fun like Exile with Cochran and Debbie is very similar to that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I really love the idea of an advantage menu. I think that's great. I think Edge of Extinction just had aired or something like that. And we saw like Ron get the advantage menu. And I was like, oh, we got to do that. That'd be so much fun. And then we get to like work together on it. Like, I think the three of us worked together on picking this advantage menu. And it was so fun to create like new and fun ideas that can implement like totally different crazy strategies into Survivor. And I think the vote doubler is like one of the most genius ones of all time because it can go really good for you or it could go really bad for you. And the other two are fun as well, but that one really was like the best choice. And then another thing about the Exile round, I think that lasted 10 minutes. If it wasn't Paddock, I don't know if it would have been so good. I mean, it was just, they had such a chemistry. It worked out perfectly. Like the Survivor gods were in our favor because certain people, I think it would have been like really boring or really dry. But with Alex and Paddock, it was just like perfect harmony. And after that was
like
over,
with who would have made it boring?
No.
I'm not going to throw anybody to the bus. I have a couple people in my mind. But funny story is after this Exile is when they did the immunity challenge, and Paddock had to stay in my car blindfolded. So she spent the round with Chantel and Alex, basically talking blindfolded in the back of my car for an hour. So I thought that was hilarious.
I think we unblindfolded her so she could have a burger, and then we were like, all right, you got to put the blindfold back on. True. But Liska, did you know that the inventor of the vote doubler is Mr. Alex Forstenhausler himself?
I did not know that. Sorry if you see me getting I'm just trying to keep my dogs from being confused. So I'm monitoring them a little bit.
Survivor New York loves dogs and dog chaos adjacent things.
Yes. I would fit right in. But no, I didn't know that Alex invented the vote doubler.
I was definitely gonna try to make the vote doubler be the one that got picked because obviously that's the one that I like the most.
This is such a great reaction.
Liska, I have a good question actually. So I tell you guys that you are doing a tribe swap, and you reveal your chip, and you notice it's you and Dresden going to a new tribe. You are losing Paddock, TJ, and Billy. We don't ever get their full-on reaction. What is going through your mind in that moment? Like, you were going with Dresden, who you kind of said that you wanted to get out because of his idol, and now you have only him to rely on. So what was going through your mind?
So I really felt, I came in and I just felt like the whole time I was playing, it was constantly like things, like they always say you need a little bit of luck. And I will say I did not play particularly well, but I also just kept running into situations where I was like, oh no, for real. Like I had, at first was so excited with my tribe because two of the people in that night zero that I felt like I really connected with had been TJ and Billy, and especially Billy. Like the second we connected, it was like, that's it. We've got each other's back. I mean, and he really went to bat for me in that first vote. But really until the two idols had been found, which happened pretty early, like I didn't feel insecure in my tribe, even though I knew that like, okay, I'm not the fastest person. I honestly kind of felt like I was in a good place because I was really tight with the two of them. And I thought the three of us would be really tight. But when Paddock and then Dresden found those idols, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is not so great, because definitely just in terms of like at that point from what we were seeing, pure challenge ability, Billy and TJ were looking like two of our strongest players. So I knew that they were never going to be targeted. So yeah, we all wanted to work with Billy. Yeah. So I was, that I felt like I was always like on my heels and having to try to like figure things out. Then I was trying to go like gung ho, really like orange strong, and trying to create the Kumbaya tribe that I would never really have cared that much about, because I was getting nervous about like going into a swap. All these people have idols. And I'm like, if we can get this really strong, like orange strong vibe, then maybe they'll use those idols to protect orange numbers. And then it's hard to see on the episodes, but when we found that idol that Dresden had by the bathroom, like where the bathrooms were, every single tribe can see from their camp. Yeah. And so it was never like a situation where like, oh, we went and found it in secret and nobody knows we have it. Like everybody knew we had that. And it was right after we got back to our camp that immediately Pink was like up there looking around in the same area, looking for the idol. So we had been constantly talking at our camp of like, they know we have this. So like, what are we? So we came up with this ridiculous like lie that I'm a terrible liar. Like I always say I'm a good convincer. In my family, whenever we were picking a movie to watch or a restaurant to go to or something, an activity to do, like we pretty much always did what I wanted to do, because I'm a very good like persuader, but I'm a bad like look you in the eye, bold-faced liar. Really not great at it. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, we'll create this to keep this whole idea of we're going to protect each other and keep everybody strong. But I was like, if I swapped away from the people that had the idols, I wasn't going to like necessarily
go
with that story. If I was with TJ or Billy, I think all three of us would have been like, those guys have them over there.
Oh my gosh.
Well, then I swapped with Dresden, and immediately I think it was Emily comes up to us and she's like, so the idols, and we're like, and Dresden just like says nothing. And I'm like, yeah, so the idols. And it's so bad because then later, looking back and being like, oh, that played a big part, or at least maybe it's the thing. I think Dresden and I were probably going to be getting votes no matter what, knowing that like most likely Paddock is going to be joining our tribe. I think the Orange had a pretty big target on ourselves, but I think it might be the thing that kind of shifted like me to being the larger target over Dresden. So getting the 3 votes over him.
Yeah. So Dresden's here to say thanks for taking the initiative, which I would say, Dresden, Liska took way more than the initiative in this moment. She also took the 4 votes that would have been for you otherwise.
You guys have to go back and like watch Dresden's face as she's telling them the story, because he just looks like
I'm just
scared. He looks so scared, and it's so
funny.
It's not a great story.
No, I love Dresden so much, and like now, but in the game he was like making me crazy a little bit, because Dresden was so, as soon as he got that idol, when he would talk to me, he was constantly like, well, I hear anything, I'm using this idol, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna play this for myself, this is my, like, whereas Paddock, like, even though we all know we're all like, oh, it's probably a bunch of crap, she's like, this is for the whole tribe. It's just when we get to a swap, I'm going to use it for the Orange tribe. This is for everybody. And like Dresden's just like, every time I talk to him one-on-one, telling me how he's like going to play the idol on himself if he hears anything. So I'm like, well, which of those like do you feel a little more comfortable with, right?
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, I was really stressed. And that's what like, that just, oh my God, it was, when I saw it was just Dresden and I, and that one of the Orange people was the one in Exile, I was like, oh, let's just hope we win immunity.
Also, it has to be tough that literally both idols were found right in front of you. Like you're right there.
Yeah, you can't really feign any sort of, I don't know.
And the fact that we like all went together, so it's kind of like, well, we
Liska,
know.
That's the question. You had your hand on the rice first. Then Paddock grabbed it from you, asking if it was seasoned. So you had the opportunity to grab that first. And then the table idol, I still question it to the day. Like, why did you guys just let Dresden go for it? And it was just you, Paddock, and Dresden who went for the table. Did you ever think, let me just speed up a little bit more and just grab this? Like, did you guys make a collective decision in Dresden getting it? Like, what happened in that moment?
I think we were all trying very hard to not be the person to ruffle any feathers. You know, we had just come off of that first like reward challenge or whatever. We hadn't done an amazing job, so there's like some fear that maybe we're going to be weak in challenges. And then everybody, like, it's tough. Nobody's going off and talking with just one other person. Everybody's staying together, and you could tell like it's a bunch of fans going through this thing with like, oh, let's see what we got, and we're all like, like, what's in here? Like, knowing that there could be something in there. And so I never wanted to like too conspicuously be like snatching things away and like, nope, that's for me, that's for me, that's for me. Especially because if there was something, like, we are all sitting together. So I kind of felt like I didn't want to necessarily find it right in front of the whole tribe. And that's, you know, Paddock immediately just reaches in the rice. She's like, wait, what's this down here? And like pulls it out. She's like, yeah. And I will say, I think Paddock does a really good job at, like, when I'm watching her confessionals now, they line up to the person that I now know her to be and like who she is. But who she was during the game, she was just like, so like, oh, I'm 20 and I'm so young, I'm so naive. And she kept telling me things like, listen, you're just like a big sister to me. And I was like, yep. Oh, and then I'd be like, oh my God, Paddock, you're just like a little sister to me. I think we were both like so full of crap with each other, especially when I see her like wanting to like get rid of me in that first vote. I'm like, okay, if this girl is like telling me that I'm her big sister, I'm just gonna try to like act like that, even though like I don't really. Well, I didn't feel like we had that immediate connection.
It's so funny to me considering now, like, how close, like, Orange is, just in general. Like, you guys do really like each other now, and I think it's really funny that you guys, like, can never really sort of be honest with each other. Like, I do think what I loved about this group is that, like, Dresden was always very much, like, everybody was like, I don't know what this guy's going to do. Paddock was always lying to everybody. And then you and TJ are like, we're history teachers. We like each other. And then, or like, you guys are teachers. And then you and Billy are like, we like each other. And then it's just like chaos amongst the five of you. And yeah. I really never wanted to see you guys go to tribal again because I wanted you guys all in the game. But I was also like, if they go to tribal, it's going to be a fucking explosion.
Well, like that's what I was super nervous about. That's what, like, because if we didn't have those two idols that we were openly knew belonged to Dresden and Emily, like, I wouldn't have been that nervous about going to tribal again, because I feel like, you know, Dresden was making a lot of us nervous because when we try to strategize with him, he never comes out and says like anybody's names, which you don't want to be the person who throws out everybody's names, but you also don't want to be the person who never says anything and like doesn't contribute so much like to the strategic discussion. I think, at least when I'm talking to somebody, if I'm like, well, what do you think about this person? What do you think about this person? And they're constantly just like, I don't know. Like, for me, I'm like, then you want to vote me out? Is that like what this is? You know? And then, yeah, so I wouldn't have felt so nervous if like they didn't have those idols, but that made me super stressed about going to another tribal because, like, you basically know that they're probably going to have to split the votes between, like, if we're trying to, you know, get somebody out of the game and then myself. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
It's very interesting because it really felt like going into this episode, it felt like Pink really hated Blue. And it also felt like Blue has sort of something against Pink. And so it really seemed like Orange Tribe is in the best possible position. And even when you joined up, it almost seemed like at first you could sort of pick between Blue and Pink. And in my mind, it would make the most sense for you to go with Pink, also because you have Paddock coming back into the game, and then it would be like 3-3. So it's like they don't have to be worried about her coming in because you guys would be even. You guys could be like a 6. And I really would have thought that's where it was going to go. But it seemed like the only thing that stopped that from happening was the idol story. Is that what you think?
I think it's a combination of things. I thought, like, I was nervous from the start knowing that Paddock was coming back in to replace somebody because and honestly, like, this is the thing with the idol story, is once I had said that, and this was like, it was just out of my mind, and I never really thought about it again, because then I was so worried that I was so nervous that because Emily was the person who was going to come back, or Paddock come back and replace like whoever they voted out. I was like, they're probably going to want to get another orange person out to like just replace with an orange person. But I was hoping, because we had been trying to be like anti-blue. I like didn't really care if we were anti-blue or not, but because like the blue team was so dominant in the start, we actively, as the orange team, had been, and I had been saying constantly, like, oh, that Bennett, like, oh my gosh, he's like running, him and Kyle are running the show over there. I feel like you probably have like several confessionals of me talking like, or just scenes of me talking crap about the two of them, because I wanted my tribe to like be anti-blue. Just because then I thought if we do swap, maybe that would endear us to the pink, who also seem to be very anti-blue. And that's what I was hoping would happen.
Yeah, not to interrupt you for a second, Liska, but I think if Bennett comes to your tribe, it's a whole other story. But because you don't get Bennett, the blue is not as hated, because it's two of like the nicest people in the world. It's Andrea and Kyle. Like, what are you gonna do?
Although I really, that conversation that Kyle had with you, I'm like, Kyle seems so sketchy. Like, listen, you might get some hate for your idol story, but Kyle doesn't get enough hate for how terrible he is in this conversation with
100%.
you.
And that's
talking about Bennett's running the show, and so is Kai. Well, Kai, maybe no, it was Matt Moore.
I'm on the outs. I'm on the outs.
And that was the other thing too, is like, that's why it was never a discussion to get Andrea out, because we were always having conversations at our camp about like what we thought the dynamics were with the other tribes. Like, who do we think's in charge over here? And we had kind of said with the blue, it seemed like Bennett was in charge. And it seemed like the people on the outs had been like Marilyn and Andrea and maybe Matt. Like, he seems like he's, not like, but like, we really kind of like, when I saw their stuff, I was like, yeah, that's kind of how we felt had been going. So that's why I think you see Paddock is the ones that, oh, shocker, because we had guessed like it was probably going to be like who was going out or whatever. And so when he comes and he's like, oh, I'm so on the outs, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think we bought that either. And so my whole thing was there was one person in this game, and we saw some in this past episode, people talk about people they knew. And there was one person in this game I had met before. Besides, like, I had met several of the like crew members, but I had met Emily Forrester, and we played a Mafia game, and we never really had a conversation, but she was the only person who I'd ever like laid eyes on before we got there. And so even though she's kind of the person on pink that we had keyed into, was like playing really, really hard and out in front, and seemed like she was kind of running things over in the pink camp. So we included as somebody to like be very wary of. I did try to play into like the fact that we'd met, and I was, oh my gosh, I like am so glad, yay, we can play together, blah, blah, blah. And I was trying to get her to feel super comfortable with Paddock and being like, yep, we're like sisters. She's going to like, if we can team up, then we can take out the blue, blah, 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 just like we want to, blah, whatever it is. I do believe that I think Emily Forrester and Andrea knew each other much better, which may have played a role in that being the way things went. I don't know for sure. But I also did not help myself at all with the lie. Like, it's a combination, like I said, of like things were not working out my way. I felt like I kept running into like nothing. There was never, you always need those little bits of luck in these type of games where something like opens up to you. And I felt like I constantly was like running into like little like pitfalls, and just nothing was opening up for me. But at the same time, I wasn't like helping myself. Like, I didn't really have any of the right tools. So it was definitely that combination of.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning, because we got to recap this, right? So maybe some people forgot what happened if they're tuning into this, if it's not just 7 people watching from the cast. So
Kyle's definitely watching. I saw. He seems unhappy.
Chris cut this out of the original edit, and I was like, Chris, you have to put it back in. The joke about you have to eat your entire crate of food made me laugh so much when it happened in the moment, because because we told them bring your stuff, and I think everybody was like, I I watched Survivor. This is a swap. I know exactly what's about to happen here. And you can hear them talk about it a little, these cocky bastards. And we're like, okay, eat all your food. Go ahead. And they're like, what, me? But then they don't. And
we have the rights.
It was one of my favorite jokes. And Chris, this is what I love about your hosting style, is that like you will just throw a joke in there and everybody takes it so seriously. And then you're like, no. Anyways, you're swapping. Drop your buffs.
Yeah.
Chris, what did you think about that?
Well, it's funny because every season of Survivor New York, I do a joke. I don't know if you remember, Alex, but like in season 2, I was like, it's Final 10. I was like, it's time to swap tribes. Everyone close your eyes and grab into this bag and grab your new buff. But it was all the same colored black buff. And you guys all looked at it and you're like, oh my God. And Mikey like screamed and like hit me really hard. So I was like, okay, what are we going to do for season 4?
Sounds like Mikey.
Yeah. So, and then I think Naomi came up with the idea about the foodie, and I was like, yeah, let's just do it. Whether we put it in the edit or not, I thought it would be just so funny, just to kind of like psych them out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, well, yeah, it was fun. And, I like to, keep everyone on their toes. And that was just like a simple thing to have fun that we could all laugh about, even to this day,
Yeah. And Emily Paddock, by the way, says blue being the pretty people made them easy to make out as villains. Which
it really, I remember all of us saying like, they look like they actually could be on real like Survivor. Like they don't look like regular people. Especially like Bennett was the easiest to pick out, who was like in his little stylish outfit and like, he's all like
the white Converse.
Liska, I have to ask you this question. Did anybody from your family watch Survivor New York? I am just curious for that.
They haven't, because I haven't like told them to, because I having a lot of anxiety about it, so I needed to see how it all like came out myself before I shared it. So I actually am okay with it now that I've seen the 4 episodes. I'm like, okay, now I'll tell them that these are in existence if they want to watch it, but I was like not going to share it until I had gotten the preview it.
That's fair. That's fair. But I think you had a good edit.
I did. And I also wanted to make sure I didn't say anything really like ridiculous about my family members. Because I literally it's been so long, I have no memory of like anything that I said. And so many of the things I'm like, oh my God, I forgot this. So, I wanted to make sure I didn't say anything.
Do you remember falling in the river?
Yes, because the second I fell and Jordan's there with his I was like, this is definitely going to be on an episode.
So let's talk about the tribes for a second. So Paddock is going to Exile Island. So there are 2 orange members on the new Lenape tribe, which is Dresden and Liska, as well as Kyle, Andrea, and then Davey, Alejandro, and Emily F. And then on the other tribe, the new Algonquin, we have TJ and Billy, we have Matt, Bennett, and Kai, and then we have Jack and Sarah. So that tribe won immunity. Liska, this was a hard challenge, I think, because something we did that was pretty difficult is we told you that you needed to land your own bolo. And if I remember correctly, your tribe had a moment where you threw another one, and it knocked one of them off. And so it was like a really difficult challenge.
I'm so mad with this challenge because, first of all, I wanted to do the puzzle. And Emily and Andrea were both like super like, we're doing the puzzle. And I was really nervous about the fact that like I was really just trying to like keep everybody like not, like liking me and like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be a team player and just do whatever then, even though I'm like really bad at yard games. So I'm like, well, I'm not really I'm really bad at like cornhole and stuff, like not super great at that. And they're like, no, we really want to do the puzzle. At least in my memory, it felt like they were being forceful about it. And so I was like, okay. So I'm not getting the first 2. And then, oh my gosh, I get the little ladder ball thing on. And I was like, oh my God, yes. I'm not going to like ruin this for my tribe. Thank God.
I remember I was so excited for you because I was like, okay, they can't blame Liska for losing the challenge. That's awesome. Yes,
I was so excited. And then Davey throws his and knocks mine off. And I was like, looked at whoever, and I was like, no. I was like, look, no, mine was on. Like, it was already on the thing. It was there. I did the thing. And they're like, no, you have to do it again. And I was like, I have to, and then I could not, for the life of me, get the one on again. It was like killing me until I think finally, I don't know if you just let somebody else do it or I don't even know how it ended up, but like I was so upset because I was so excited that I got that stupid thing on that I didn't think I'd be able to do, and then it was Davey. Apparently I see in the chat because I remember Davey knocked it off.
Yes, and Kai, the pugs are here. They're present.
Oh my God.
They're always here.
Yeah, this is Rufus. He's my
adorable.
little naughty boy, and he's the one.
Yeah, you got to put buff on him and send it to me. Come on, Liska.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Well, so this is one of my favorite challenges because it's enormous. This puzzle, especially, and watching like Alejandro and Dresden like lift those puzzle pieces over the bolo in like almost like they run the Olympics together. I don't know if you guys watch that, but like every time that those two just kind of like lift the puzzle pieces up in a way that like is so coordinated and so in step with each other, I was like, this feels like real sports for a second. But the puzzle is one of my favorite puzzles we have this whole season. Chris, can you tell me a little bit about constructing this puzzle?
I think the idea was actually from the show. I had seen it on the show, and I was like, okay, I want something lifelike. I want this thing to be like as tall as me, and I wanted it to just be like something like that said Survivor New York on it, and it was just fun. And I the thing with my game is I want to have big builds that people like go like, wow, like that's awesome. Like that's like really from the show. And I think that was the first one from this season that kind of like was that. And there are other, moments down the line that we have like that as well. And I think there were some good reactions out of people from it. And I really loved seeing those reactions. And seeing the way that Billy worked on it so quickly was amazing. I was very impressed by how well he did that. But
him and Jack, you don't want to go against Billy and Jack in a puzzle. Yeah, I have to say.
Jack was good too, but I feel like Billy was just like more aggressive with it, just constantly moving things around. He has the muscle. But going forward, that challenge will change because I'm not going to allow people to solve it on the ground anymore because I think that makes it a little bit too easy. But it's a totally fun challenge. And it could be changed every year. Just have to put something else on it,
Paint it white and do it all over again. Yeah, Liska, what do you think?
Agreed. I was gonna say the same thing. I think that like that's a big improvement. Is just making them put it into the thing to solve, or making a much more difficult image on it. But then you could also run into like we have a limited amount of time, so you don't want things that are going to take like the digging challenge.
That was
6 p.m. Chris, I don't know where Chris said this to me, but Chris was like, it was 6 p.m. on the time stamp of Liska's tribal. And I was like, oh my God.
That was also a huge shift for me too, was I felt like, we had the first tribal and I felt like we had so much time to strategize and to talk to everybody and talk things through. And then I think as the days are going on and the schedule's getting like compressed, I was not prepared for the change in the amount of strategizing time that we had, like going into this first post-swap tribal. It felt so fast. I don't know if I got to talk to everybody. I remember at one point being in a confessional and looking over and seeing that the other person in confessional was Dresden, and that all of the pink and blue people were in one big clump talking. And I could, I think you can see in the confessional where I'm just like not looking at the person, and I'm like, I was like, can I go?
Yeah.
Like, can I not do that?
I do remember, I remember editing this, and you were just like talking to the camera, and you were just watching. You weren't even looking at the camera, and you're just like, I need to end this right now. I need to go. Yeah. And it was like a moment.
I didn't know if I was like allowed to say that to them, to the person.
No, I mean, it's fair, but it was.
No, I'm sure I've done that before too. I think the game comes first.
Yes.
So I want to ask. Sorry, I want to ask Alex his opinion on these tribe swaps, because I think Alex, you kept telling me I'll save it for the podcast. What are you saving for the podcast, Alex? What do you want to talk about?
Wait, you're putting me on the spot. There were so many things that I could talk about. I don't know which.
Anything. Go ahead.
About this, well, I don't know. I guess.
Runner up.
Well, I think the main thing was how I really felt like orange and pink should have work together. Also, I guess with Liska saying her story. First of all, yeah, I think Liska knows not the best story, but also it's not great to say a story like that in front of a group of people. If you're gonna lie, you sort of want to do it like a one-on-one type situation. You can see how the person's receiving the story better. Whereas when it's a bunch of people, you can't see all their faces. You don't know how it's being received. But I also feel like the best story would have just been to be like, we went to the table and it wasn't there. Always the best thing is just, I don't know what happened. Like you don't want to like sell out anyone on your tribe. You want the number of suspects who could have it to be as large as possible. Maybe one person from the blue got it before you got there. Maybe someone from pink, when they weren't looking, got it. Like, and maybe it also wasn't on that table. I mean, the clue brought you to the table, but no one knows that it was actually on the table unless you find it on the table. So I feel like there were a lot of other options there.
Yes, those are all much better options. And I don't understand how, like, in hindsight now, when we were all sitting as a tribe, like, what should we say? Like, none of us came up with anything better.
But listen, I feel like you're the one who kind of pushed it, because in every scene that I saw that conversation,
yeah, I probably did.
And I was very confused, because it's like, okay, she doesn't have the idol at all. She could play so many other roles. You could just say absolutely nothing. Just say, I don't know. Maybe it would have worked out. Or you could have just been like, you know what? Dresden has it. Paddock has it. I don't have it. I got votes in the first travel. I was definitely going to be the next one voted out, because they weren't going to vote the people with the idol. So you could have played, I think you could have done what Kyle and Andrea did and said, like, no, I'm really on the bottom. I'm giving you guys all the information. Please use me. Let's blindside Dresden. And then Paddock comes in. They could have blindsided her. And I really think that you could have projected a lot further. But I think you did in some way do the right thing as a whole for your tribe. So like I see the positive for both.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. And I think that was one of those things where I just like, you get something in your head and I just couldn't let it go. And the fact that they like watching the pink tribe go and look in the exact spot we had just been, and like right at the table that I was like sitting at. So I was so paranoid that they were going to think that I had it when I didn't. And I was like, I was right there, but I was not the hand that was closest to it. So I think that was just constantly in the back of my head. So I was like, what are we going to do? Because if we swap, they went up to it. Then later we see the blue tribe go and they're looking around everywhere. And like, I'm like, and we were the first people to go to the latrines and go into that area. So, you're right. I should there's so many better things that we could have said, but I just think it was like so in my head of like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then, like I said, after that happened, I mean, I just totally like did not think about it. And if somebody honestly, I kind of wonder now, like if, and I have no idea in hindsight how I would have reacted, but like had somebody come up to me and said like, so at one-on-one when we were still like, what really happened with the idol? But at that point, I think they thought I had it, which is like, I put myself in the situation I was afraid of being in. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering. I wonder if I would have thrown Dresden under the bus. I really just wanted Dresden. I was so nervous that if he played the idol, I didn't really have faith that he would play it on me. So I figured he'd play it on himself. And I really just didn't want him to play the idol because I was nervous. I was like, my first hope was that I could trust Emily, who was telling me that we were going to go blue versus pink, or no, we were going to go against blue. So orange and pink against blue. And so I was like, I really hope I can trust this girl. I really hope I can trust these, like that she's like kind of leading this pink group. I hope I can trust these guys. So that's my first hope. And then my second hope was like, also I was a little greedy and really hoping that if that worked, that we would get Paddock back and then we'd have two idols. And then my goal would have been to then swing back and knock out maybe knock out a pink person. And so keep like swapping the number, like to get us down to going into the merge with like an orange majority. So I think I kind of had like that greedy, like, ooh, this would be kind of fun view in my head of what I wanted to do. But I just really didn't want Dresden to play his idol. So that was like my big thing. So I didn't think he would play it on me. Because if the votes were not going to be how I wanted them to be, then that meant they were probably coming for us. And I just was like trying to make him feel super safe so that he wouldn't play his idol. And so I just kept telling him, like, even though I had met Emily for like literally had never really even had a conversation with her, I kept being like, oh no, Emily won't betray us. Like, she's gonna, like, she says we're good, let's go with them, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna be fine, we're gonna be fine. Just because I was like trying to make Dresden feel like good. And I was like, even when we were supposed to not be talking, I was like whispering to him, like, I think we're good, I think we're good, I think we're good. Even though I was kind of like, I have no idea what's about to happen.
we have to take away your trophy now for admitting to us that you were.
I still haven't gotten a trophy, so.
Oh, Liska, did you when you see the votes 2 for Kyle and 2 for Dresden, because the last 3 were for you, what was going through your mind when the votes were being read? Did you think it was you when you saw the first name for you? Did you think it was you? Like, what point?
I was so happy and scared. Like, you knew, like, when I saw the votes on Dresden and he hadn't played his idol, I was kind of like, even if they did go against us, maybe there was more votes on Dresden. He hasn't played his idol, and like I can make it in like one more further into the game. But then when the vote came up for me, I was like, oh no, they were lying to us. Like, and I was like really still hoping that we was gonna go like Liska, and then that last vote would be, because at that point, as soon as one of them came up for me, like I knew there was no hope that it wasn't going to be like myself or Drez. Obviously, they turned on us, but I was just really like hoping that not having him not play his idol would at least benefit me. But you know,
yeah. So I'm gonna step in here because I think that Liska, what you initially do of talking to Kyle and talking to the Blue Tribe is not a bad idea, because if you target the pink and Emily comes back to you guys next, then you would have 2 more votes where pink tribe members could go home, and you could still keep the sort of group of 5 together. And I think that is kind of advantageous for the blue. It's also advantageous in the same way to go after the orange for the blue. So it depends on who they pick. But I don't think going after the blue to work with you is necessarily a bad idea, even though, you know, pink has more people. And blue's been hated for so long. I kind of admired that you guys went to blue and were like, hey, do you want to work together? And I don't think that, I think that everybody in this moment is trying out everything they've got. Mm-hmm. And the thing that just clicked was blue and pink working together to vote out the sort of idol liars, I think, in this moment. And I don't blame you guys for trying. You guys tried your hearts out. It was just that blue and pink really clicked. And Billy, I never fucking said you're on ice, and don't you dare lie about me again on this podcast. How dare you?
Somebody, no, that was the thing that would get told to us all the time. So,
it was not me. It was not me.
Maybe not you, but it was somebody.
Wait, it was Naomi. Are you lying? Because I feel like that's something.
No, we have video proof of somebody else on our crew saying you're on ice, and it is not me. So how dare you?
Like,
there is a clip of me
sitting there whispering to Dresden, like, and I actually had even said when we were strategizing to Dresden, I was like, we have to keep our votes together. Oh, I'm getting like an echo. I don't know. But like, if you feel really strongly about siding with the blue against the pink, I'll go that way. I am just going to say the only reason I want to side with the pink is because I do know one person on that tribe, and it's somebody I've met before. And Dresden and I had that one person I met. Dresden knew absolutely nobody. And there's a lot of players who had a lot more connections. And that's just, I think, the nature of like the LRG world, where there's just going to be a lot of people who have those previous connections. But we definitely were less connected than some of the other players from that standpoint as well. So we didn't have like any previous like idea of how to base things with some people too.
Sure.
And so that was really like my determining factor in like when we felt like it was kind of a coin toss. And maybe if they really are going against each other, then we have to decide which side we're going with.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to target the veterans. You have Andrea and Kyle, who are both like Andrea is technically a newbie, but Kyle is a veteran in a very sort of loose way. I think you could swing it like, hey, Emily and Alejandro have played these before. Let's vote them out. And I love the euphemism Dresden kind of uses. He says that Emily's a talker, and that's how he sort of phrases. She's smart, she's strategic, but he always calls her a talker. Mm-hmm. And I love that about Dresden. Liska, I think the one thing you you do kind of well is that Dresden does vote with you. Like he doesn't throw you under the bus to save himself and his idol. He does want to work with you. And we will see the ramifications of an angry Dresden in the next tribal council, let me tell you. Or that like the next episode, I should say. To be fair, I've had 3 beers. But the next episode, Dresden is pissed after tribal council, and I cannot wait for you guys to see it. He has no sympathy for the pink members in these moments. But Liska, what did you think before this of the 3 votes that you hadn't gone? So you go to the first one, you have 2 votes that you don't go to. What did you think about your tribe in those moments? Did you ever think that if you had gone back to tribal council, like who would you have voted out? Was that ever something that came up to you?
Yep. I think like from my understanding, and you'd have to eventually talk to the other people who I was with to see if they were on the same page. But from my understanding, and I think I would have been the backup vote, so this could be something that only I thought was the situation because maybe it was really just going to be me. But I think that TJ, Billy, and I really wanted to work together. And I know that like Paddock and TJ, I think were pretty close as well. And Paddock was the one who was being a little more like, oh, I want to use this idol for the whole tribe. So I was a little more comfortable with her, whereas Dresden was being a little shadier. Like I said, he wasn't like throwing out any names and he wasn't wanting to like strategize as much. So we had talked numerous times, like when he was pulled for a confessional or something like that, like as a group, like, do we think we can keep him calm enough to get him out with that idol that like, and because I think now knowing Dresden and knowing his personality, I understand him like so much more. But when you first have met these people and he's being quieter and he's so nervous and all of that, you know, you just feel like, I don't know, is this person really with us? Like, is he really orange strong the way we're all saying we're orange strong? Or is he going to be somebody to take that idol and jump somewhere else and use it against us, you know? So I think we really didn't want to go to another tribal, but if we had, I think the goal would have been that, and I probably would have been the person out if he did use his idol.
Chris, what else do we need to talk about here? I'm like, Chris,
what was your initial thoughts on people? What was your initial thoughts on people?
Do we have questions?
Stop, rude.
It's just going to be people from the season being like,
well,
how good was that?
Like,
do you like me?
What is your initial thoughts on people in like the beginning, like that night 0 for you? Like
that night 0.
I know you said TJ and Billy.
TJ and Billy, and like Davey's also a teacher, so I had noticed that there were quite a few people who, and like Billy works kind of like in a school, so a lot of people who are teachers or education adjacent. Maybe that's just the factor of the game being in the summer and we have more time. I don't know, but I kind of like, I think that that's an easy, immediate bond when you're like in the same profession, just because you have a lot of shared experiences. So I was really happy to see the 2 of them. I think I did talk to Dresden and stuff on that first. I thought you did, Billy. No, you don't? I don't know what you do then. It's just weird because we text all the time.
Physical therapy.
I know Billy doesn't work at a school. I see him on the subway on our Navy works at a school, though.
But then I remember I really did want to work with Bennett, and then he just ended up not in the same tribe with me, especially because I felt like he was going to be like the dream. Like if you had a tight relationship with him, he's like the perfect like meat shield like person to have out in front, because he just like did stand out in that way. It's hard to remember now like my immediate impressions of people now that I know them better, like after playing, you know. And also it was when I got there on night 1, I feel like I got there later, and it was getting dark pretty quickly. And so I also had a really hard time, like the next day, remembering who anybody actually really was, like, because like then I saw them in daylight and I was like, oh God, I'm like so bad, like with names. That's why I have to have a seating chart in my classroom for the first few weeks of school, because I like can't put the names with the faces right away. So there was a lot of like people be like, oh yeah, you said this. And I'm like, oh, we had a conversation last night. Like, I don't remember. But, well, yeah, of course I did. That's so great.
Oh my God. So Alex, I'm curious, you had witnessed up until this point the first 4 vote outs. What do you think?
First three.
Okay, and then you witnessed the 4th vote out. So what were you thinking about this game so far? You've been here every season, right? You've seen it all. So what were you thinking in this moment of Liska getting voted out? Was this surprising to you? Was it a good move, a bad move for the people who did it? What was going through your mind?
Well, I could totally understand why they put the votes on Liska, because I feel like I also would have thought that she had the idol, because in my mind, who is going to put themselves out there that much with like a lie if they don't even have the idol? So I can understand that. It's a weird situation. I don't know, but yeah, it seems like it's everything, all the strategy and the reason for the vote out, it all feels connected to the lie about the idol. But yeah, what's your question? If I'm in whose position?
Well, I think if you're like in the position of the pink tribe or the blue tribe, is this the move you want to make? Is it taking out a member of the orange tribe? Is it taking out Liska? Is it taking out Dresden instead?
Well, without the idol lie, I think you want to work with orange. But I guess there's one thing. I guess sometimes you just look at it on paper and you can see like, oh, I should do this. But I guess when you're talking to the people, what you really got to go with your gut and who you trust more. And while it seems like orange was in a great position, I feel like pink just felt better talking with blue, I guess. I feel like everyone was sort of scared, because I also think, pink was scared about orange and blue getting together. No one felt safe. And it feels like a lot of the conversation that people were having with each other, like everyone sort of felt nervous. And everyone was saying, like, they always say the same thing, like, I love this tribe. This is such a good tribe. And then, like, Kyle said we should remember that Emily's coming back from exile. And then Alejandro was like, oh, my God, like, you're so smart. Like, oh, that's so good. Like, they're all overdoing it way too much because they're all scared and they all want everyone to like them. But I feel like, what it comes down to is it's just what you feel better about. Who you feel better about, and that's who you're going to go with. And I guess in the end, I really do think it was the idol story that it was an easy thing for people to point to, because I think other people were also doing sketchy things and saying sketchy things, but it's so easy when like people can come together. And also I think part of the problem was not just the idol story, but the fact that it was said in front of everyone. It was something that everyone was bringing up to everyone. And it's like they could rally together against that.
Yeah,
definitely. I totally agree. I think that's like kind of what became the determining factor of where things went. I'm always like in my head when I think back on it, which, like when you first play one of these things, you think constantly about like, oh my God, what could I have done? What could I have done? And now like I hadn't really thought about it in forever. So now I'm like trying to think about it, but also trying to remember like how things were going and how I was feeling in different moments. Especially when you start seeing these things and having more information. But I just remember, I really wish that I had, well, first of all, not said that in general, but like also once I had done that, I was like, oh, I think I was at such a relief point of like, okay, my worst nightmare of having to deal with the idol issue is gone. And now we've moved on. And I really did not think about it again. Like, did not think about that again. And then when I was like, oh my God, duh, of course that was like a thing that mattered, but it like was not even in my head. My big thing I was focusing on was the worry that we were going to be the targets because of the fact that Emily was probably coming back. And that is something that I think came up in quite a few of our conversations when we were strategizing, was like, oh, so tell us about like, tell us about Emily or Paddock, tell us about Paddock, because like we were assuming she was coming back to our tribe. So I think my focus was there. Plus on the fact that like I felt like I was one of the main reasons we'd lost the challenge. So I was really stressed about that, even though it was not fair because Davey knocked my little ball off the ladder ball. I think that like all of those other things had pushed the idol thing completely from my mind. And I kind of wonder now, like, if I had remembered it, if I had fessed up and said like, oh, this is the situation. I just couldn't say it because, you know, Dresden was literally standing right next to me. We were all in one big group. So I kind of just went with like wanting him to feel safe with what the story was.
Yeah. Or maybe if you just opened up to Emily. I remember there was a conversation that you had with Emily where you talk about Paddock as like your little sister, and it seems to go well. I mean, I'm almost like Emily's a great liar in that moment. But I also wonder if it would have been good for her to mention, well, to come clean and say, like, if she thinks you have the idol, maybe say like, play your idol, like everyone's coming after you, but I want to work with you. And that would also be a way to maybe see actually if you do have an idol.
Right.
Yeah,
because I had totally like literally forgotten about the idol thing. It just never was in my head as something to even like bring up or clear up or anything like that. And nobody mentioned it to me. And so like, I wonder if somebody, it just like these games move so fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's a lot of hurry up and wait. And like, you have these moments where we're just like sitting at our picnic table, chilling, and it feels like it's been forever while the other tribes are off to vote or something. But then when it's time for you to strategize, it's like boom, 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 so fast. And I think there's a lot to be said for just like the people. You can tell watching it sometimes too, the people who've done it before or have maybe ORG experience or have done just like things like this before, and they're like able to articulate, like think of the strategy so much more quickly and articulate their points and like do that stuff really fast. And I just remember feeling like my brain was like blown. Like I was like, I think about Survivor strategy all the time, but I just have never had like, that's when you have hours to ruminate and just like think about things. And, you know, in these live games, it has to be so fast. And I think that was one of the areas where we didn't ever really, except in the first vote when I was trying to get Dresden on my side. So I just pretended like it was like a big thing with the veterans versus contenders. Like, I don't think that was ever like a real division factor for any of our tribes, but it's definitely a factor in terms of just like the people who've done it before, even if they haven't done it all that well before and have just been in that situation. So they know what to expect. And then I just felt like my head was like spinning.
Yeah, I think that's again like why we made that this season what it is, right? Is to say, hey, these people know what they're doing. Watch out. Chris, do you think that's fairly accurate, right? That we wanted to give them a fair warning of like these guys might be pretty good.
Yeah, exactly what Liska said is like exactly what we wanted. You know, she got to see people in their element. They knew what to expect and how to play this game and how to take, you know, opportunity when they had downtime. And I think it was all a learning experience for the new players. And then in the future, those new players will have that same experience and will become a veteran. They're all veterans now. So that was all part of the plan. And I think it worked out beautifully. And I think we see that a lot with Emily F. and just like her ability to take so much pride in the fact that she has played before and she wants to show other people how to play. And I think that's definitely affected a lot of the veterans for sure, with maybe their ego.
Well, and I think confidence too, of just feeling like you know like what you're doing, and you just I think you're thinking at a faster pace through these things. Where I felt like I was always like behind like this, like what other people were doing. And I just had never done anything like this. Like even in terms of like any sort of social strategy game, I had played like 2 games of Mafia, and that's basically the only thing I'd ever done. And I think one of them I was killed in the first night. So, you know, and I think the difference between like having this experience and then now I've played a lot of Mafia. Like I remember feeling like when I went into Sequester last summer, like that was so much more helpful because I was able to like immediately like talk to people directly about what the strategy needed to be and this and that. Plus there were some lucky breaks that went my way, which is also just a component that comes into play in any of these. You need to have a few things kind of break in the right direction.
That's actually a good point. I want to point out, so what I do for the tribe swaps pretty much every season is you draw from a bag. Inside the bag is either like one color wood chip or an exile wood chip. But I thought it was interesting because you said like how luck plays into the role. So Dresden pulled the first one. He went to the new blue. Paddock pulls the next one. She pulls a yellow. TJ pulls the next one. He pulls an orange. You pull the next one. It goes back to blue, and then Billy pulls one, and it goes back to orange. It's like your tribe had this amazing split in the very beginning, and I just feel like if you pulled one to the left or one to the right, the entirety of your game does change, and it really comes down to one thing, and that was luck, like you said.
Yeah.
And
maybe Liska could have ended up with me on Exile.
Exactly.
Wow, that would have been a fun one too.
My stupid wanting to like save people, I probably would have picked that dumb like save one of your teammates on another tribe stuff.
No, I would have made sure you picked the vote doubler. I mean, that was
It was not going to let that die. Well, and I think this brings up. Oh god, I think it brings up an interesting point, which is that like Liska, I feel like Billy or TJ in a way wouldn't have saved Dresden if they were in your spot. They would have told them immediately that Dresden had the idol to try and get Dresden voted out, and maybe utilize Paddock at a later point in time. But I think that Liska,
I don't know if they would have definitely sold him out. They might have just not said anything.
Billy, comment below if you would have sold Dresden out. I don't know, but they probably wouldn't have said anything.
I think when it was mentioned if we should come up with a strategy, like TJ said, like I don't want to worry. Like what if maybe they won't ask us or something?
And I was just like, no, they're definitely going to ask us because they're like. They went up right after us, looked under all of the tables, and we tried to be inconspicuous about just going to the bathroom. We were sitting at the table type thing. They're like underneath, like what's under these tables? And then they're like looking down the beach at our tribe and like talking to each other. And I was like, no, they're going to like know we have something, but I shouldn't have gone with that story. I just was so paranoid about it to the point where it just, that level.
Well, what's interesting is if they did know that you had something. I mean, I don't think they did know you had something. And also in all the previous, episodes, they talked about how much they liked orange. They didn't talk about like, oh, we're scared of orange because they have an idol. They were just talking about how much they don't like blue. So I don't know. Oh, Naomi.
She said she's gonna be right back.
Okay, my dog's doing enough talking for her, and I'm gonna take it.
Chris, you're the new host.
I am. So, Liska, what was your favorite challenge that you did?
My favorite challenge was the dig challenge, 100 million times %, because we were amazing at it. And my tribe found those little pieces. Actually, it got to the point where I started to feel so badly for the other tribes, but it was such a relief for us to not have to go back to a second tribal right in a row. And we had not done well either of the first challenges. We lost, and I don't know if we came in second or last place in the first challenge, but it was such a relief. And I just feel like that was like literally the Survivor New York gods falling into place, where we found those little things so fast. Paddock just like somehow got every single combination right immediately. And like when Billy and I did the word thing, the second we dumped out the words, I just like looked at it and I was like, oh my God, it's just this. And like, it was like so fast. And I was like, we're incredible. We're like the greatest tribe. We just did this so quickly. It was like this like immediate feeling of elation. I felt like every other challenge was like this like struggle, those stupid ski things that Paddock and I couldn't figure out. Where I was like, like looking at us, I was like, why are all the other tribes doing this so easily? And we're doing the same like left, right, and yet we cannot get our legs in sync.
I have a lot of problem with that challenge too. I'm really bad at that.
You did pretty bad on that one, Alex.
I don't know. I was like, maybe like that one was just so. I mean, we got there. It's funny. When I watched that one back, I was like, I don't think that we were that far. We looked really far behind, and I was like, were we really that far behind everybody else? Because I didn't feel like we were like lagging that much.
It looks far, but it really isn't that far. Like it's crazy.
I remember I can agree with that. I was like, wow, we're like terrible at this. And I was like, I remember us having a hard time getting going, but then I remember us kind of catching up and feeling like we weren't like doing that terribly. But like when I watched in the video, maybe it was just the angle, but I was like, wow, we suck.
Listen, what was like some of the biggest surprises like watching it back? Like, was it the confessionals? Anybody talking about you? The other tribes?
I think watching it back, like it's tough because I think if I had watched some of those confessionals immediately, like right when they had happened, that would have been a surprise because you know what only people's in-game persona that they're showing you. But like having gotten to know a lot of these people better now outside, especially like my Orange Tribe members, we've stayed like really close. Like we're a while now, but for a long time we were like in our group chat all the time. We had a Zoom hang at the start of quarantine and everything. So knowing their personalities better, like I watch Paddock's confessionals and I'm like, yeah, that's just who she is. Like that's Emily, Although I do think she does. For me, it's like not so much as like that's Emily, because I think Emily actually is really like nice and sweet in real life. But that's Emily in terms of like she wants to be funny and put on a show. Like that's Emily, the showman, with her funny quips and like comments and stuff like that. That's her knowing that she's like doing the entertainment thing,
Yeah.
But it was funny to watch just some of the confessionals from the other tribes and to be like, oh, we were totally right about like the situation or vibe that like was going on there. Sarah has been really fun to watch because I don't know her as well. And she's opening my eyes to like a whole like behind the scenes of what was happening over at Pink that I did like not know was happening at all during it. From our perspective, we really saw like Alejandra was kind of like their challenge lead, like physical beast. And then it just looked like Emily Forrester was kind of like the strategic mind, like kind of running the show and like the leader over there. That was the vibe we got, that she was kind of like had everybody in line doing what she wanted them to do. Seeing Sarah's little comments and like the way her mind is working and stuff like behind the scenes, I'm like, oh, I did not know that was happening. So that's really fun, I think, to see. I'm not as surprised by the stuff from my own tribe because I know them better, but from the other tribes, some of like what people's thoughts were, it's pretty fun. I was always so paranoid in confessionals that people were going to be able to like hear me. I was constantly like, Jordan, can they hear us? Can they hear us? Can they hear us? Like,
I remember hearing that a few times.
Oh my gosh. I think with that, with the water behind you, there's no way.
If I had to talk louder, I'm not saying anything interesting.
True.
And Liska, I don't know if this has been asked. Sorry for the break. The Wi-Fi went out. But Liska, would you play again? Would you ever think about playing again?
I mean, I already said that while my game in Survivor New York maybe does not qualify me as the reigning sequester champion, I told Chris ahead of time that I believed the prize for that should be automatic acceptance onto an all-star cast. And this is what I said before we played, when he's like, should there be a prize? And I said, oh, whoever wins should get to be on All-Stars. And then I won. So I'm just saying, if you had asked me immediately after playing, I probably would have been like, no, I'm never going to do one of these again, because I had so much anxiety and stress the whole time. And I felt so stupid. And even now, like when I'm like, oh, well, that would have made more sense. Like there's so many things that you still feel stupid about, or like you could have done better. But then there's also, when I've talked situations through with other people, I'm like, yeah, but then this would have happened, then this would have happened. So it's really impossible to go back and be like, well, if I had just done this, then, who knows what could have happened there, because there were so many other dynamics at play. But, like I always said, like, if I hadn't told that lie, would Pink have sided with us, or would the fact that there were people on Blue and Pink who knew each other better outside of the game still outweighed it and put the target on us, with the fact that Emily was the person coming back in? Like, it's really hard to say. And so,
Right.
It's just now in hindsight and having watched it, I'm like, that was actually really fun. I'd do it again for sure. So that's like a very long answer for that question, but my response has changed and shifted. I think I had to actually see this season to make a real determination if I really wanted to do it again. And now I'm like, oh yeah, can we do this again?
Yeah. Well, to be fair to you, Liska, I think that for a first showing, I thought you were very well integrated with your original tribe. I thought they all liked you. You didn't go home in that first vote. And I think that shows a lot about how people felt about you and working with you. And I think that if you can walk in there and be like, oh, hi, my name's Liska Savage, and everyone just goes, okay, and nobody questions it, hey, what are you going to do? Take it and run. Alex,
I think I've proven that I stay just as all savages before me, really, really tribe strong to a fault.
Yes.
I have got your back. It is a genetic thing. We cannot help it, especially in an orange tribe. We will go down to the ship on that one.
I just want to know, Alex, if you had any other thoughts, if you want to impart your wisdom on us, Mr. Exile Island. What do you think of the season to come, maybe?
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited with how things are. I mean, I'm sad that we lost Liska, obviously, and I'm glad that you'd be willing to play again, because I think you do have fans. I mean, I read in the comments, people were very upset to see you go. I was upset to see.
Yeah, Davey's group chat was pissed that you went home. Davey said,
"Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, that's nice, because I listen to other podcasts and they don't even get my name right. So it's
yes. Although I like that podcast. I mean, they got my name right, and so
you like them.
That's rare.
That's fire. No, I love that they're watching and doing it and stuff. I think that's wonderful, and they've been really, really funny. But I've just been like waiting, and I was like, well, by episode 4, they're gonna hear it enough times, they'll definitely get it right. And I'm sorry, I don't know their names off the top of my head.
Yeah, Cody and Jacqueline of Survivor International. Yeah,
Jacqueline, the girl.
And Cotty.
Jacqueline on that other podcast. No, I think was about to say oh, I think it's Liska. No, I know it's Liska, and I was like, oh my god. But then they're like, oh, and then Alex, I think it's Forstenhausler, and I was like,
seriously,
is this for real? Is I on a camera? But it was really, I mean, I've had fun listening to it and fun watching this. I think this has been my my watch it when I'm at the gym and stuff, because then I can kind of watch it, but if I get embarrassed by what's happening, I just look on the other TVs and just ignore it for a minute and then go back to it.
That's hilarious.
I was always thinking to myself, oh, they say Liska enough in this. They should know it by now that it's Liska. They all say it the same. Nobody says it Liska, but that's just what happens.
There's also there's a big mix of Andrea and Andrea, especially from Alejandro.
Yes.
Well,
oh my god, all the name.
I love the theory that there's a something that's written where we spelled everybody's names correctly. We did not do that, and you will see some absolutely horrendous misspellings through the rest of the season, and I cannot wait for those.
It's funny when they said that, I was like, was there something in there? I don't remember it, but I don't remember anything. I was so interested to see what I said in my final words, because you could have told me I said anything and I would have been like, yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm sure I did. I don't know. I had no idea. So that's one thing I was like, I really got to watch all the way to the end in this one, because what if I said something terrible?
You're sweet.
And Liska, did you have a fun time hanging around with us? Because you stuck around for almost the whole weekend with us.
And were very helpful. Yeah, I stayed the whole time because I had booked the whole weekend and didn't have my dog. So you know what? I mean, and I really wanted to see. I kept thinking okay, well, it was getting kind of late, and I wanted to see. I was like, I'm just gonna see who makes the merge. Then I'll probably just leave in the morning. And then I was helping out, do some stuff in the morning, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And every time I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay for one more vote though, because I really want to see what happens next. And then it was getting crazier and crazier. So I ended up staying through to the whole thing. So right now I've been trying to be very careful of not not saying anything spoilery.
And Billy says my boss is obsessed with Liska.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm obsessed with
his boss at the school where you work?
Yeah, it's your boss, the boss of the school.
I don't know what people do for jobs, guys.
And honestly, I talked to all of these people, and I could probably tell you what 6 people do for the work. I couldn't tell you what a lot of people do for their job. Yeah. Chris, is there anything else we have to talk about before we wrap up this super fun time?
Just that the next episode is probably one of the best, I think, of all time. It goes down in the history books. This is the one to watch of the season, I would say. And if you were thinking about stopping now, then you're just making a huge mistake because it really is one of the best to come.
It is. Absolutely. Chris does a great job editing. I have to I cannot wait for everybody to see this moment go down. Next week we will have Inessa joining us on the podcast. Fun announcement. And the eliminated player. And it's going to be on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, but it's going to be a fun time. Friday night, 8 p.m. Tune in to episode 5 of Survivor New York.
Naomi, did you clear up about our hamburgers that we?
You know what it is? I realize that because we play Fake Survivor, we understand that like there is no need to justify why you give people food. It's Fake Survivor. You don't need to give them you can give them food. Like, you know, you're not trying to starve them for 2 days. But to our Survivor fan brains, we're like, where do they get food from? And it's I understand why it's questioned, but in reality, because it's a live game, we don't fucking care. Like, it's, I don't know, I'm a hamburger.
I remember when we got the hamburgers, we were all like, wait a minute, so you're telling me that like they're gonna give us hamburgers and we didn't have to be sitting there like sharing like one Pop-Tart or whatever per like
you were dividing up the grains of rice between all of you.
They're like,
that's hilarious.
Hamburgers. And then like when we got a reward and it was, I remember we got like 1 can of seltzer and like 3 mini bagels or something like that.
Yes, the mini
so
bagels.
Like, we better ration these out, and the next thing you know, we have hamburgers.
Well, I also think because it was supposed to carry on through the swap as well. So if you got hungry after 6 p.m. after those burgers, you needed what was left in your crate so that you could survive.
Yeah.
I think we
I
abandoned
should have dumped the rice. There you go.
That would have been great.
Did the rice come with you to that camp?
Oh God, I have no idea.
I went with the other tribe. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it went to the other tribe.
I think we'll see a scene with them with it later. But I can't wait for everybody to watch episode 5. Alex, thank you for being here. Thank you for being on Exile Island for all those months. I'm sure it was really exhausting.
It was tough.
It was tough out there. But you're a survivor. You're not going to give up.
Exactly.
Wait, before we go, I think the cutest thing about what Alex did at Exile was he was like, guys, I brought a polo shirt for this moment. Like, I have to change out of my production shirt to wear the polo shirt for Exile. Like, you guys have to wait a minute for me to change. So
I changed in the bush. Yeah, I changed in the bush.
Oh, you changed in the bush. And then he popped out and oh my God. Naomi made it into a meme. Please go and make your own meme of it. This, like,
I took it all very seriously. I took my job very seriously.
My other favorite part is that we finished that scene and then Alex goes, should I do like a post Exile confessional about what I think just happened? And I was like, yeah. And I just like point my camera at him and he's like, I think she could win. And like he just like
well, I mean, I said more than that, but listen,
sum it up.
It was better with that. You know, I gotta say how I feel about it. You know?
It's the perfect like nail to the scene, and I love it. It's so funny though because you're just kind of like, should I say something? And I'm like, I think you should. We just totally like, all right, go.
And like, kudos to you guys because having watched the other seasons to now, even just from like the last one to now, the improvement in like production and video and sound is like, it's amazing. It's so, you know, the first few seasons, like you really feel like you're okay. This is definitely like backyard fan Survivor, and now I'm like, no, like you can just watch this. It feels a lot just like regular Survivor. It's just so much better. So you guys are kicking butt over there with that.
Well, thank you so much. I think that you're basically saying that because we lost Andrea on crew, we're better for it, which you'll have to take up with her. But
no one says that. No, because season 3 was better than season 2, and Andrea was on season 3.
Yeah, no, I think it's because you gained Louis. So
right, correct.
That's what I heard.
And Jordan.
Louis and Kayla changed our lives, and George. They really, in so many ways. And Emily Paddock with a nice little note, which is true.
For sure.
The people who helped out, like you, Alex, everybody who helped out, Jess, Louis, Chantal, Ben, George, Kalish, JT, everybody was so helpful. Go ahead, say it, Chris.
I was gonna say, can't we just confirm that Liska's gonna be joining production too?
Yeah.
So it's just gonna get better and better.
That's right.
Liska will be.
Wait till I ask you all in your every new person. I'm gonna be like, so what do you think Andrew Savage would say about this moment? Better get it right.
Well, Liska kind of does join our crew in a way on season 4 towards the end there. She really is very helpful in a lot, and I love that about you. And Marilyn were there.
So I'm not just in the way.
yeah, it was very helpful to us. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you comment on our YouTube videos just to help us get the algorithm. Give a like to Live Reality Games on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We're not on Twitter. Join our Facebook group where you can make memes along with the rest of us. Alex, what is your favorite meme been so far?
Oh, mine was the Reality Game Masters one, because it's also a lot of people don't get it because not everyone has seen Reality Game Masters. But this is time for a plug for people to Google Reality Game Masters that I co-created with Rob Sestradino, available on YouTube right now.
All right,
it's fun. So, it's fun. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
Oh, there we go. We got a fan. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys, everybody, for commenting and tuning in. We love everybody. We will see you Friday at 8 p.m. for season 4, episode 5. See you then. Say bye to the folks at home, everyone. Wave bye.